Almost everyone around crypto is looking at stablecoins in a very basic way. They're looking at them as simply just stablecoins. But if you think outside of the box, you could really open up a completely different view around stablecoins, mainly what they enable, and mainly what's going to be happening over the next couple, weeks, months, and even years going forward. I do believe that Brad Garlinghouse just told us exactly what's coming. And RLUSD plays a crucial role in all of this. Now, you might be saying, all right, well, that's bullish for RLUSD, but what about XRP, Nick? Well, what's bullish for RLUSD is also very bullish for XRP and the XRPL. Even though a large portion of the supply is minted on Ethereum, you got to think about the multi-chain future that we are headed into, number one. Number two, the network effects that will happen as well. The EVM sidechain is here. We see XRPL bridge to Ethereum in a big way, which also means that what's really enabled on Ethereum, for an example, RLUSD, right? If we actually go over to rwa.xyz, we know that 242 million of RLUSD is on Ethereum and only 67 million is on the XRPL. But these are bridged together, which means you could simply just have any of the RLUSD on Ethereum immediately bridged over to the XRPL. So it doesn't really matter if there's a larger portion on Ethereum or not. It doesn't really matter at all. The main thing that I'm focused on here is what's going to be happening going forward, which is accelerated and increased institutional adoption of stablecoins. And yes, I do suspect RLUSD will see a very large portion of that adoption because of the name that Ripple does hold in this space. Now, let's talk a little bit about some stats. So we can see right now that RLUSD outside of just holders is down on every metric. That means monthly active addresses, monthly transfer volume, and even market cap. Now you might say, well, Nick, this is actually very bearish for Ripple USD. I thought this was, I thought we would see a lot more, like what's going on. Stablecoins do take a hit here and there, and they bounce back in a big way. I suspect that all of these metrics, give or take a week or two, maybe even, a month, these metrics will be up significantly. I still think that RLUSD by the end of this year is going to be a complete monster in the stablecoin market, which we already know is a massive market valued at well over $230, almost $5 billion, with a monthly transfer volume of over $2.4 trillion. But let's actually talk about why. Number one, adoption around RLUSD. We continue to see markets expanding around RLUSD, which will lead to heightened adoption, more liquid RLUSD as well. And the more liquid a stablecoin is, the more use cases enabled around that stablecoin. We have here from BitMEX that RLUSD is now available to deposit, buy, and trade on BitMEX. Now, BitMEX is, a very large exchange, over 172,000 followers. And even if we actually go over to the exchange tab and we go to BitMEX real quick. Sorry, let me actually just look it up on over here. So if we go over to the exchange tab, we can see that it's the 113th largest exchange in this space. Now you might say, well, Nick, that's not that massive, right? Well, they still have a significant amount of overall global reach. And it's still just another market for RLUSD to be added to. But on top of that, it wasn't just BitMEX that added RLUSD. It was also Euler Labs, which, again, if we think about some of these apps and if we think about some of the exposure that this allows RLUSD to have, this is very good to see. Now, it's not going to immediately affect XRP. It's not going to be very bullish for XRP at all. This is just more so the market's opening up for RLUSD. Just like Banxa, for example, adding support for RLUSD. Now, this one is actually very bullish because of the fact that, mainly we think about Hedera when it comes to Banxa. Now, I'm going to talk about that here in a second, but I just want you guys to realize that all three of these announcements happened in one single month. The markets around RLUSD continue to open up in a big way. Even if we actually look at RLUSD and we look at the markets, there's over 3 pages worth of markets for this stablecoin, which we love to see. Now, outside of that, let's actually talk about what the CEO of Banxa, or Bank Social, put out recently, which was just had a meeting with the Ripple team. A great meeting, maybe the greatest meeting in the history of international settlements. Hedera and HBAR are still a huge part of the strategy, and now so is XRP. You're not thinking big enough, think big. Then, and he just said, 1 billion times it. I would just say 10x it, 100x it. I think that, when we think about what's really going on here, we're talking about a stablecoin. We've been talking about this stablecoin for quite some time, and a lot of people are kind of tired of it because they don't see the actual value of RLUSD, for XRP. But I want you guys to realize that, a stablecoin significantly impacts the underlying network through use cases and through adoption and through use itself. Okay? When we look at Ripple and what they're starting to do, especially with their stablecoins, okay, it's opening up a major market for the XRP ledger, an FX market, which is, immediately affecting a massive $7.5 trillion per day market. And I think that's exactly what Brad Garlinghouse is trying to get across over here, which is institutional access. It's happening. Institutional access to crypto is accelerating. From the launch of XRP futures and ETFs on CME and NASDAQ, just this week, it's clear the market is maturing and exposure to crypto is expanding. Brad Garlinghouse locks in for 60 seconds and unpacks the excitement around crypto ETFs in a special episode of Crypto in 1 Minute. Now, again, this is mainly based around ETFs and just institutional adoption and access to crypto. But institutions love stablecoins, which is why I've been focused on RLUSD and what it really means for XRP and the XRPL. I'm going to continue that, but first, let's listen closely to what Brad Garlinghouse has to say.
I'm definitely hurt, but also excited that I was overlooked for years before being on here, but now here I am. Hi, I'm Brad Garlinghouse. This is Crypto in 1 Minute. 1 minute on why are people excited about crypto ETFs. I think there's 2 main factors going on here. One is, for the longest time, institutional investors primarily trading on Wall Street, really haven't been able to access crypto directly. Their options were to either self-custody, onboard with an exchange, and some people don't like centralized exchanges for a whole host of reasons. So this was really the first time you had institutions be able to go on Wall Street and trade directly in crypto. This is an unlock for a couple reasons. For capital that couldn't come in, whether it's an endowment, whether it's a pension fund, even mutual funds that didn't or couldn't access crypto, now they can. The second thing is, it really is institutionalizing the entire industry of crypto. I think it should be no surprise that the Bitcoin ETF was the fastest ETF ever to get to $1 billion in assets. I think it passed 10 billion in assets faster than anyone as well. And today is, I think, will eventually close in on the gold ETF, and that's in 1 minute.
So yeah, obviously ETFs are enabling institutional access in a big way, but what about stablecoins? Because Brad Garlinghouse is 100% correct here. It is happening. We're starting to see institutional adoption of crypto and blockchain itself accelerate faster than ever before. But on top of that, we think about what their focus is, because it's not just access to crypto. They want to utilize crypto. They want to build use cases around crypto. And the best way to do that is with stablecoins. Ripple actually recently put out an article about this, and they said use as collateral integrated into global payments trusted by institutions. RLUSD is a bridge between traditional finance and crypto. Learn how stablecoins are becoming essential financial infrastructure and explore their use case. Within this, there's one very, very interesting thing, and that's the fact that institutional use cases and institutional adoption around stablecoins is the focus. We have here that as the digital economy matures, stablecoins have emerged as one of the most promising forms of digital currency, designed to maintain a stable value by pegging to fiat currencies or reserve assets. Stablecoins offer a bridge between traditional financial systems and blockchain technology. And of course, we do see the acquisition of Hidden Road being focused on here, because that is a $3 trillion per year, prime broker, which is massive. But on top of that, RLUSD is being plugged in, which we've talked about already. But we have down here financial institutions unlocking institutional DeFi. For banks, asset managers, and hedge funds, stablecoins offer an efficient on-ramp to decentralized finance without compromising on compliance or performance. RLUSD, built on the XRP ledger, acts as a trusted regulated stablecoin that institutions can use to post collateral, settle trades, and unlock liquidity across blockchain-based platforms. See, the thing here, and the number one thing that I really want to spotlight with these ETFs and all of these moves happening around like access, it starts with access. Then we look at what they want to do next. This is what they want to do next. They want to do institutional DeFi. They are going to tap into networks like the XRP because of what it provides. And here we have stablecoin issuers, enterprise-grade infrastructure. Stablecoins issued on high-performance blockchains like the XRP ledger allow financial providers to meet growing demand for tokenized fiat currencies. The infrastructure behind RLUSD prioritizes compliance, speed, and settlement finality, key requirements for regulated stablecoin issuers. On top of that, right, we have Ripple's long-standing commitment to transparency and working with regulators ensures RLUSD is built on strong foundations and can serve as a model for how stablecoins can be issued and maintained with reliability and global utility in mind. Of course, cross-border payments are definitely a focus as well, but again, we look at RWAs and institutional DeFi. You can see that there is a overall common theme here. Institutional DeFi and the XRP. On the XRP ledger, RLUSD integrates seamlessly with the native features such as the auto bridging and the built-in decentralized exchange, enabling efficient trading and on-chain settlement without the need for complex smart contracts. This makes it an ideal fit for institutional DeFi use cases like lending, cross-border transactions, and tokenized RWAs, especially as new features like multi-purpose tokens and compliance first amendments continue to roll out. When we think about what's happening here, right? It is happening. Institutional adoption and access to crypto is growing like never before. But what this is really starting to enable is use cases like institutional DeFi, which is based around lending, borrowing, RWA, tokenization use cases. I mean, when we think about what's really going on here, this is unlocking massive use cases. And it's all based around the biggest players in the world, financial institutional giants. And it's happening on the XRP ledger through things like RLUSD. RLUSD enables all of this. So when we think about access, it's not just XRP futures and ETFs. Those are great, hype narratives, and they're great things to talk about. But it's also happening through key puzzle pieces like RLUSD, which we need to address. We need to talk about because it's not just a stablecoin. It is an enabler for what's coming. Institutional adoption at scale, which will lead to institutional grade use cases launching at scale on these extremely performant networks like the XRP. So with that being said, I hope that you guys enjoyed this video. If you guys did, leave a like, subscribe, set notifications on because more free content. You guys are more than welcome to follow me on Twitter and join the free Discord in the description below. And with that being said, guys, this has been Nick. Thanks for watching. Peace out.